Hey everybody, this video is all about 1.4 linear algebra and we're looking at the movie streaming example. I'll try to remember to put a Google Doc link in the description to this video. This video here, we're going to focus on the achieved side of it, so we're not going to go into too much detail reading up about the description, but all we need to know, we've got three companies, Me Cylinder, Java Good, and Add Walt. And we're trying to decide between which of these we need to get. So we've got some more information here. Again, we've got Me Cylinder up here. Scrolling back up, we've got Java Good over here. Add Walt, we've got the graph for. And question number one, or part one, this is the achieve stuff for the achieve video. Keep an eye out for the merit and the excellence stuff, which will be part 2 and 3, but we're not going to worry about that in this video. So the very first thing I suggest you do before you start, even if you don't read anything at this stage, I want you to scroll down to this graph here. We can see Add Walt, and you can see the graph has the axes set up for us. It goes from 0 up all the way to 90 on the y-axis, 0 all the way along to 50 on the x-axis. And the most annoying part about Desmos is sometimes you can't quite see what's happening because, see here it's between 10 and negative 10, same along here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this little spanner up here and we're going to change it to match the graph that we have over here. So let's get the spanner. We're going to start off with the x-axis. As I said, that's between 0 and 50. So I'm going to put in 0 and I'm going to put in 50. The only annoying thing about that is you can see along the x-axis, I can't actually see the 0 part of it. And 50 stops straight away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit onto 50 and I'm going to go into the negatives a little bit so I can see the whole graph. So let's go negative 10. So I've dropped it, and then let's add 10 here to get to 60. And to make my life easier, I'm going to go steps of 5. And you can see now I'm going up in 5s along the x-axis. The next thing I want to do is I want to put the label in, and the label you can see down the bottom here, number of hours streamed. I'm just going to type that in here. Number of hours streamed. So I'm just setting up my axes before I actually do anything. And now the x-axis looks really good. So I can see between 0 and 50 really clearly, and that'll help me with the question. I now need to do the same with the y-axis. So I'm between 0 and 90, so I'm going to do the same thing. So it's between 0 and 90. Same issue, I can't actually see 0, and I can barely see 90 up the top there. So I'm just going to minus 10 from the bottom. So now I can clearly see 0, and I'm going to add 10 up the top, so I can now clearly see the 90. Again, my step, I'm going to make it 5, and now I can see every 5 super clearly. And also, I'm going to add in the label, just like I did for the x-axis, and we can see here it's cost with the $sign in brackets. Oh, I've written a 4, but there's the $sign. And now you can see cost pop up here. To make this a bit more visible, if you want to, you can get rid of the minor axes. But I like this one here because each little one relates to 1, and that might actually help me out later on. So I can now get rid of that, and now you can see my axis is set up and it'll match the graph that I've got. So that's the first thing we needed to do. And that's so important, I'm going to write that down here. So step number 1, we needed to set up the axes. Okay, so I've just changed that to blue to make it a bit easier to see. The second thing we need to talk about is we need to start forming the equations. So that's the very first thing we need to do for each company. And we're just going to label the companies. So we're going to go MC for Me Cylinder. So let's write Me Cylinder. We're going to call that MC. And the next one was, I think it was Java Good, wasn't it? There you go, Java Good. So we'll call that JG. So Java Good was equal to JG. And then finally, I think it was Add Walt, wasn't it? Add Walt. Add Walt. If you can figure out why I got these names in relation to movie streamings, let me know. I'll be curious to see if anyone can figure out my lame jokes. So I've got the 3 things set up there. I now just need to form the equations for each of them. Me Cylinder is really nice because I've got the equation given to me. And I just want to note, we've got the C and we've got the H. But if we type that in, that's just the same as if the Y and the X was there. So those two there are the same, except instead of the y-axis, it's called the c-axis. Instead of the x-axis, it's called the h for hours axis. But what I'm going to do, let's use the x and the y value to do this here. There we go. So that's my equation. There you go. So there's a little arrow. We'll get rid of these question marks actually. Now I need to do the same for Java Good. Java won't be as easy because we're not going to be given the equation. But straight away, I want you to look for the dollar amount, $40. It says a month. That doesn't change, which means there's no gradient, so there's no x to the equation. So that is just going to be y equals 40 in this case. Y equals 40. And I'll chat about the domain after I've got all the equations. And the last one, this is AW. This one's going to be a bit trickier. So it looks like we've got a y-intercept of 12. So that means C will be equal to 12. So C will be equal to 12. We just need to figure out the gradient, which don't forget is rise over run. So let's have a look to see what points we can see clearly. So we may have to zoom in and out to make our life easier. So control ++, there we go. Just zooming in and out so we can see the thing clearly. And what we can see, you can see this point up here. You can actually see that really clearly. So that there would relate to 42, which means it's going to rise 30 all the way up here. And if we go down, it's gone to 20. So it's risen 30 and it's run 20. So 30 and 20 are the numbers we're going to look at. So that makes my life easier. So that's going to be 20 over 30. Put that into your calculator. We're going to get 1.5. So that means our equation here is going to be y equals 1.5x because that's the gradient. And then we're going to go plus 12. So I've now got my three equations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into my Desmos. And I'm just going to remember the colors because the colors are going to be really important. And next to each of my equation, I'm just going to write the corresponding color. So let's put in me cylinder first. So we've got y equals 0.75x plus 20. There you go. You can see the line. And let's just write red next to that so we remember. Following this, we're now going to do Java Good. So y equals 40. That's the blue line. So let's write in blue. And then finally, add, I wouldn't walk, but add Walt. And that's going to be y equals 1.5x plus 12. And that's my green line. So let's let them know that it's green. And we've actually already just realized we've done step 3. Enter equations into Desmos. So where we're at the moment, I think it's pretty straightforward. But we've got two skills already done. We've formed equations. Specifically, add Walt was going to get you the mark for forming the equation. And we've graphed them using Desmos. So I've actually got 2 of the 3 skills left. And the last thing we need to do is substitution. And substitution relates to the 25 hours a month. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the graph. So we're going to go x equals 25. And you'll see a vertical line coming up and down. And we're going to x equals 25. And that's a purple line. And what this tells us is the price at each of them. So I'm clicking on the dots to make them gray, and then I'm double clicking them again to make them black. And what you can see is the left-hand number is 25 for each of them because that relates to x. And we've already said x is equal to 25. So the numbers on the right relates to the price of each of them. So we can see the red one will be this 38.75, the blue one will be 40, and the green one will be 49.5. That tells us the price if we stream 25 hours per month. So let's type that up. So MC, MC is the red graph, and the red graph, if we off-click all these, we can see the red graph over here. So that's the 38.75 one. So the red graph, 38.75. Java Good, so JG, that was the blue graph. So that's why it's really important to have the colors so you don't get confused. Let's click on that one. So that's the $40 amount. And that makes sense because that's $40 no matter what. And then the green one up the very top there, $49.5. And green was AdWaltz. AW. So I've now got my my third skill. So I've formed the equation, I've graphed them all, and now I've substituted them. The very final thing we're looking to do here is we are looking to communicate our answer. Communicate answer. So just a reminder of the question, Jack generally streams 25 hours per month. He wants to know which subscription is cheapest for him. We've found out that MC, which stands for me cylinder, is going to be the cheapest at that particular point. So we're just, in a sentence, just going to say, Jack should choose me cylinder, which costs, forgive my bad typing, 38.75. Haven't even got the dollar sign there. Gosh, 38.75. This is cheaper than the alternatives at $40, so only a little bit cheaper than that one, and $49.50, a lot cheaper than that one. The last step is, and you'll see I brought up the snipping tool here, I'm just going to grab my Desmos information, just grab that in, and you'll see it come up there. I'm just going to go copy, and I'm just going to pop that, because that was the equations, that was the graphs over here in the Desmos section. Oh, what am I doing? So I'm just going to go Control V, and now I've got my graphs there as well. And that would wrap it up. So that there would be everything you need to do for Achieved. So what we're doing, just a reminder, the most important thing I think was we set up our axes properly. People who don't do that tend not to do well in the standard, so make sure you do that properly. We formed the equations. That was the first achieved mark we got. We graphed our equations by entering them into Desmos. That's our second achieved mark. I substituted. That was my third achieved mark. And finally, I communicated, and that was the last thing we need for achieved. So we need the 3 achieved marks and the communication. That will be enough to make sure you get the achieved for the standard. So hopefully that was a good summary. Just a reminder, we are going to have a look at part 2, the merit and the excellence stuff, and part 3 in another video. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks so much for watching.